So I've done a lot of research into solar companies in the area, and I just wanted to give you kind of the rundown on what I found out and the questions that I asked to come to my decision and to find my solution for solar. The first question you should ask is, do you offer a PPA or a loan? Some companies, a lot of companies offer both. And the difference is the PPA is called a power purchase agreement, and it lets you buy the electricity that the panels produce, but you don't actually own the panels. So the solar company will invest, they will purchase the panels for you and install them, and in a sense they'll become a second utility company for you. The other route that you can take is buying the panels yourself. So you have the upfront cost of getting those panels financed. The benefit is, so you might not save as much in the beginning because you'll be paying off the panels, but then after 8 to 12 years, depending on how many sun hours you get, you'll have those panels will be yours, and you'll be able to collect or save 100% on your electric bill. So all that electricity is yours. You're not buying it from someone else. Second question is, how much do you charge per watt? Now this applies to the power purchase agreements. You shouldn't work with a company that's not going to offer you around 12 cents per kilowatt hour if you're doing PPA. So that's how much you'd pay per kilowatt hour to the solar company. If you're financing the panels, you don't want to be paying more than $4.55 per watt. And generally, an average home is going to take, an average home that gets, decent amount of sun hours, they're going to need about a 5 kilowatt system. So the price of the 5 kilowatt system, you just multiply this $4.55 by 5,000. So a kilowatt is 1,000 watts. That's how you come up with that. So this would cost about, anywhere from 20 to 25,000 on a regular system. There's a lot of companies that offer, less than that, but lower cost per watt doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the best deal. And we'll go into that later. The third question I ask is, how long does permitting take? Every county is going to deal with permitting differently. This isn't necessarily to vet the company. You just want to get a good idea of how long permitting will take in general, no matter what company you go with, because the solar company has to go through the process for you. Generally, especially if you're doing PPA, the company will do the permitting for you. And you should have the right expectations when you're going in, because some counties will take 6 or more weeks to process a permit, and you're wondering, what's the deal? Why isn't this solar company on the ball, when in fact they're just waiting for the permitting to get processed. The fourth question is, how are the panels insured? Most of the time, if you are financing panels, you're going to have to insure them. But if you're signing a power purchase agreement or a PPA where the solar company owns the panels and installs the panels, they're responsible for those. So they should be insuring. So make sure that if you do PPA, that the solar company is insuring the panels for you. The fifth question I ask is, how long do the panels last? Now, if you're doing a PPA, it doesn't really matter how long they last. I mean, it does, in the sense that you want efficient panels, and you want the panels to last for the full length of the contract. Most panels are going to last 25 years. The power purchase agreements generally run 20 years. So that way, after the 20-year mark, you can make a decision about how you want to proceed with solar. Financing panels, you're going to be relying on a manufacturer warranty, and generally that's 25 to 30 years. So if you're getting paid off in 10 or 12, then you've got 13 to 18 years of free electricity. So That's look for a good manufacturer warranty. Also, ask how much their efficiency deteriorates every year. Generally speaking, if they've got a 25 to 30 year manufacturer warranty, they're not going to deteriorate. But most panels, there's a slight deterioration in how much they produce every year. Generally, it's really insignificant. The last question, you can ask as many questions as you want, but at least ask these questions when you're talking to a solar company or a solar sales rep. If they do PPA, or if you're buying, how good should your credit be? So generally you're going to want credit score higher than 600. But if you don't have that, still look into it. I talked to a guy that owned a solar company, and he was saying that, they could pretty much finance anyone and they could still give them a reasonable rate, because the banks, solar is a very solid investment and it's going to produce a return on investment. So you don't necessarily need the best credit, but that is something that solar companies will look at. So some of my recommendations as you're approaching the process of finding the right solar company for your home: don't be afraid of the salespeople. They're there to help, and if they're being pushy, just call them out, and you don't have to be angry about it, but just get over the fact that you're going to have to talk to some salespeople. Second thing is, don't be afraid to say no. Don't let people pressure you into anything. If you're doing your research, then you can say, you know what, I found a better deal over here. Unless you can match it, I'm going to go with them. And that's as good as saying no. Also, look into a lot of solar options. Look into as many as possible. The Department of Energy, their Renewable Energy Laboratory, NREL, they recommend doing that, and I'll get into how you can do that effectively. That's just going to help you get an idea of the range of prices in your area. Allow multiple companies to give you estimates. I just mentioned that. Again, I'll get into that here in a little bit. And the way you do that is by using a solar marketplace. These are companies that deal with multiple companies, and essentially, if this company is working with multiple companies, they know that they're competing against the other companies, so they're going to try and give you a competitive offer. So I just typed in solar companies in my area, and then I just scrolled through Google and started calling these different companies up, and that worked to some degree, but I wasn't finding the deals that I found by using the solar marketplaces. And I'll share with you the solar marketplaces that I used. I wasn't really getting the competitive offers that I was looking for. Just know, again, I mentioned this before, that the lowest price doesn't mean you're getting the best deal, and that not all panels are created equal. You're going to need to make sure that you understand if a solar company is charging more for their panels or per watt, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe they're offering you higher quality panels, and maybe they're more efficient, so you don't need to buy as many panels. Those are all things that you need to look into and consider before just going with the lowest bidder. Again, I would use solar marketplaces. The ones I used that were really helpful were Solar Visit and the National Solar Program, and I'll put the links in the description here. Again, they set you up with multiple companies, and then once you've found the company that you want to work with, all you have to do is, if you start getting these solar calls, you just need to ask them not to call you anymore, put you on a do not call list, and that way you won't get any more phone calls. But at least this way you're going to get the most competitive prices. So recap: don't be afraid of the salespeople. Don't be afraid to say no. Use a solar marketplace and allow these companies to give you estimates, because that way you'll save a lot of money. Let them compete against each other to give you that deal. And remember, the lowest price doesn't mean the best deal. And then consider using Solar Visit and National Solar Program. Those are the ones that I used. I'll put those links in the description below. And good luck with everything.